Introducing a player from Las Vegas who has played Mr. Sampras 34 times. 5 of those were Grand Slam finals. With a style and a flair that made him a global superstar, he would top the world rankings for over 100 weeks. He's won the Australian Open, the French Open, Wimbledon and the US Open. That is the complete set. He also claimed Olympic gold, a golden slam. A feat only he and Nadal have managed in the Open era. Please welcome back to London, Andre Agassi.
There was a time in my life when I was a bit of a outside the box kind of rebel, and then this stage of my life I might do things outside the box, but I'll do it because I care fully. So, you know, my advice to somebody is to pour 100% of themselves into whatever they choose and figure out a way to make yourself a day better, because ultimately that's the journey that we're all on. And I think if you really take that approach, sometimes it manifests itself in some risk, but I think you always look back and are grateful for the chances taken.
What's maybe the biggest risk that you've taken?
I've taken many risks in my life. I've lived through some of them, but I think writing my book was a big risk. I think doing an autobiography that isn't the standard global press conference kind of celebrating, you know, accomplishments and really turning a hard lens on myself and opening myself up to the world, the truth of me. I mean, it comes with risk, you know, when you open yourself up like that. I think I've taken other risks of you know, wearing jean shorts on a tennis court, you know. I mean, so also I've ran the gamut of risks. I've done you know, drugs that have destroyed my body, you know, when I at the lowest point of my life. I took risk with that, you know. Driven way too fast as a teenager, you know. I mean, everywhere I turn, I've taken risk, and a lot of them weren't smart, but others were very calculated risk. As I got older, I started to realize how precious time was. On court, I would say the strongest was was winning the French Open in 1999. It was the last of the 4 Grand Slams, coming off being 140 in the world, coming off falling from number 1 to 140 in the world. It being the last of the 4 Grand Slams for me to win, me coming back from 2 sets of love down in the finals, scared to death that I was going to let another chance go by. That was one of my most powerful memories on the court. Second to that, or alongside that, was my retirement in New York. You know, saying goodbye. That I'll never forget.
Why won't you forget that? What were the feelings?
Well, there was a standing ovation. I don't know for how many minutes. You know, just straight, and before anything was ever even said. You know, and you start to realize in that moment that it's all about connection with people. You know, it's what this life is. It's not, you know, it's never been about the tennis. You know, it's been about the appreciation of so many things, but it's the connection, to feel so grateful for everybody for so many years pulling me through difficult times, and then to see their sort of sense of appreciation for me, and you start to realize it's been a relationship with the world. You know, it was a powerful moment. You know, and what I said afterwards came out. You know, it was like the scoreboards that I lost. You know, but there's so much it doesn't say. You know, and I need to say thank you. You know, because you've learned a lot. So that was a real powerful moment. For sure, but I wanted to understand my own life. You know, I've always been an interested person. I've always been a curious person, and I've been the biggest puzzle I've ever faced. You know, is solving my own sort of psyche. You know, and I needed to reconcile some contradictions that I've lived, that I've felt, that I've communicated, things that didn't always add up, and in doing so I had to take an honest look at myself. So I didn't commit to turning that book over until I wrote it, because that to me was first and foremost for me. Then as I experienced my life and put it into context and perspective, I saw the overlap, that we all share a similar journey. This is a life story. This is a journey we all go on. We all have different experiences, but But the truth is, this is about forgiveness. You know, this is about labeling kids. You know, searching for identity. This is about, you know, taking ownership of your life, even if it's a life you didn't choose. And so there were so many of these themes that kept resonating with me that I felt compelled to just keep going. It was we had a belief. When I say we, I mean my trainer. Is if you have a muscle and you can make it stronger, you're making yourself more capable. Whatever you do, if you move boxes for a living or you play a sport for a living, you know, let's get you stronger, and that's what we did. So my routine would be weights was a huge part of my training. Hill, incline running, and short burst and recovery was a huge part of my training. Time spent on court got less and less as I got older because I didn't want the uncontrolled wear and tear on my body. I needed to make sure that I was getting after my muscles and my conditioning in a way that didn't put the stress as much on the joints and the ligaments and the tendons and the things that sort of connect everything. So we had to make a lot of adjustments with my training on the years, but the one thing that never sort of left was the importance of strength.
Yeah. And how about now? I mean, you know, you're out of obviously the professional game as such. What's your training regime now? Like now, fitness is obviously still very important to you.
Well, thank you. It is. I think the older you get, the more important it becomes. I mean, obviously it was part of my livelihood for a while, but now it's a function of just being healthy. You know, it's a function of being able to do stuff with your kids. Now it's a function of, you know, getting up in the morning and being able to, you know, bend down and put on your socks. You know, and so I still enjoy lifting, but I can't train hard enough to make up for bad habits. So what I tell people is it has to be a way of life. You know, you have to choose a way of life. There's no diet or there's no training routine that you can just sort of stick yourself on. You have to understand that everything needs to come in moderation, including as you get older, your training. So I mean, I do go to the gym 3 to 4 days a week. I do cardio maybe 2 days a week, and I don't do any exhausting cardio. I just do fat burning cardio, long 40-minute, you know, incline, fast walking, and I watch everything I put in my body because I can't make up for it if I take it out on the knife and fork.
Yeah. Do you get on the court much these days?
My playing time happens usually in spurts. So I'll get on the court for a couple weeks leading up to an exhibition or something I'm going to play, because I don't want to startle my body. You know, that's the funny thing about knowing how to do something so well, is that when your body doesn't do it, you still know how to do it. And you can really do damage. You know, I mean, if you told me to kick a ball as hard as I could, I'd have less chance of hurting myself than if you told me to hit a serve as hard as I could, because I don't know how to kick a ball, but I know how to you know, to get the most out of motion on a tennis court. And so I don't want anything to happen. So I get on the court to prepare myself to not be injured when I go out and compete. I hit the ball just fine. It's about waking up the body and not doing something stupid.
And when you get back on the court, does it kick in again, that competitive? Do you want to, you know, are you there for an exhibition, or are you there to, you know what, I'm going to crack?
Yeah, no, you know, the competition is inside yourself. It's taking pride. You know, for me, it's always that way. So your priorities are simple in an exhibition. You know, you want everybody to enjoy it. You want to do it well enough to create nostalgia, and you want to, you know, kind of test some of your limits, but not at the cost of either of those things. Well, I think the evolution is not understanding what it is your job really is out there. You know, it takes a while for somebody to understand. You come into the scene at a young age, first of all, and you don't accept the things that are out of your control. You fight against the things that are out of your control. As you get older, you start to acknowledge what is out of your control, and you start to obsess about what you can control. And so as you get more aware of that balance, you become somebody who says, this is what I can do. I can focus on the next point. You know, you have a finish line. You can't run out of clock. You can't pass the ball. You can't. So if I have to get across this finish line, the most important point is the next one, because it doesn't matter what happened the last point. I can only take a step closer the next point. I'm either going to go further or closer the next point. So you start to get very disciplined. You build a muscle, and that muscle keeps you focused, and that muscle keeps you on point. It's a lot of memories for me controlling that anger, because it's a life lesson. What is your goal and objective, and what's the fastest point direction between here and that end goal? And the fastest is put it behind you, and here we go. They go hand in hand. I would rather play somebody who was better physically and worse off mentally than somebody who was really tough mentally but not quite, because you just know that they're going to make you earn it. You know, if you're strong mentally, they're just going to make you earn it. And tennis is about that. Tennis is about not being good. It's about being better than one person. It's about controlling your environment better than your opponent handles their environment. So the more elements you threw at the equation, I looked at it as a bigger opportunity to distance myself with my discipline. And so that's what it becomes about. It becomes about but you can never give up on the body either, because you can tell your body all day long what to do, and if it's not prepared to do it, it's going to tell you what to do.
So at that top end, to be a top end pro player, in today's age too, what does it take? What do you think it takes? And it's comparing it back to, I guess, in your day, are there any differences between what it takes now?
It takes all of you. It takes all of you. The standard is higher now. The demand is more now as it relates to what these guys can do. I mean, their movement and court coverage and stamina and ability to do it for 5-6 hours at a level where I could only do it for 4 hours. It's a big jump. I mean, granted, some of them play slower. I played at a fast rate, but take an hour away from that, they're still doing it longer than me. So there's more demand, which means smarter training, means harder training. It means rest and recovery becomes just as important as the discipline of training and getting better. And so it just becomes more refined and more important. It seems that way, I mean, they have ways now of testing your sweat to know what minerals you tend to lose differently. We all lose minerals at different paces. It might be this or it might be that, and so there's ways to understand what you need to eat more of and what you need to. It seems like it's gotten much more sophisticated, but I think the thing that isn't different between my era and this era is it's full on and life consuming. Everything you do is built around one thing, and and it takes all of you.
Yeah.
You deal with nerves all the time. I mean, the whole idea of getting across that finish line is fighting against that momentum that that this point changes your future, and you have to get yourself to a place where every point has the same value, just so you can execute the same way. You don't want to play a point more importantly than you play another point, unless you're negotiating your body and a point is less relevant. I'm down 40 love, the guy's serving, I'm starting to feel cramps, I might not go chase that drop shot down because it's not worth the benefit. But you constantly start learning how to treat points equally, so that when a big point happens, you just can bring your best game. Easier said than done, but you do get better at it.
A couple of irregular questions. Toughest opponent?
Myself.
Wow. Explain.
Well, listen, I had many battles where you wake up and you know that you're not ready for this. There have been many times where you feel like you've lost a match sitting in a locker room, because mentally I'm very fragile now, and that's tough. The unpredictability of the emotions before you learn how to control it, that's difficult, because you feel like you're fighting a ghost. You don't know how you're going to react to something, and as a result you worry about it, and it affects your game. But on the other side of the net, it'd be hard not to point to Pete, quite honestly.
Person in tennis history who you would most like to have played but didn't? Could be anyone, right back.
I'd probably say Rod Laver.
Wow.
Yeah,
Why?
probably say, because obviously you could argue the greatest of all time, but I'd want to feel what he did. He had particular shots that were really interesting. I mean, guys used to come forward a lot back then, and he had this shot where he, obviously being a lefty, where he'd take his backhand and it looked like he was about to slice the ball. Somebody's moving forward, and the last second he would turn over on it, and it looked like it had guys just absolute,
Wow.
absolute handcuffed, and I'd like to feel that. I'd like to see how long he could hold that thing before he committed.
In the flick. Final two. Biggest lesson tennis taught you about life?
I would say the biggest lesson tennis taught me about life is there is no destination. This is a journey of getting ourselves better, and results are a byproduct of how you choose to live. And that's the thing that tennis taught me. What you're ranked is a byproduct of 1,000 decisions, and those 1,000 decisions don't happen unless you're clear on how you're going to go about what it is you do.
And to flip that over, biggest lesson life taught you about tennis?
That it's a people's game with rackets and balls. It's not a ball and racket game with people, I would say.
Nice. All right, and if I can slide one more in. Have to ask, with your attention on cycling at the moment, what are your thoughts on the prospect of performance-enhancing practices in pro tennis?
I don't see how it's possible, quite frankly. I mean, I really don't. It's a out of control governance, a third body governance. It's a year-round sport. It'd have to be some serious sophistication that I've never seen before in our sport. You got to remember, we're not a organized group of people. Like a team or it's not sophisticated. We have we have parents that turn into managers, that turn into coaches, that turn into nutritionists, that turn into PR, negotiators. I mean, it's there's the guidance that these individuals have is not comprehensive enough, in my mind, to really pull it off. I mean, I think people can do recreational drugs. I think people can have some things happen to them and not know certain things. I know there's stories of people in surgeries who didn't get cleared for certain things. But to actual proactively cheat, I